Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It is Monday, June 27th, 2022, and you are listening to episode 141 of the Can I Say Something podcast. I'm your host and a recluse with a juicy caboose, Damian. Joining me today is...
Derek McDuff.
On today's show, in honor of Netflix's newest blockbuster, Spiderhead, we'll be counting down our top 5 favorite egomaniacal tech geniuses. But before that, we will be discussing what we've been watching, including Cooper Ray's new film on Apple TV Plus, Cha-Cha Real Smooth, Disney Plus shows Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ms. Marvel, and getting into what we've been reading. Right into the show, bicycle@gmail.com, bicycle on Twitter, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, rate and review it on an Apple Podcast, tell a friend, family member, or stranger. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing well. End of a long day here recording, so
yes,
it's nice to sit down and just talk off my feet, which is nice.
Yes. I would love to get paid to kick up my feet and record a podcast. The Ringers. I was just listening to the Ringers guys. They did a 3-hour season finale wrap up Obi-Wan today. So I was checking that out, and it's just like, my God, 3 hours of this. They have the other Ringer-verse one with the Midnight Boys Pew Pew. I think Joanna. Hops on that one sometimes. I think Mallory hops on that one as well. In addition to whatever sports ones they do, I never listen to those, but I always forget they have those on top of there. But yeah, like you said, it'd be really, really nice to be able to earn a living doing what we do here, right?
Yeah, that would be pretty good, man. One of these days, I get paid to write sometimes, but not talk yet.
You do, yeah. Speaking of that, before I forget, I listened to the show you did the 2 weeks ago with the gentleman from podcast Like It's 1999. That was really good. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Yeah, Phil Liskov. Yeah, that was a really good, fun episode. He is obviously, a very knowledgeable person about film. So that was, on The Frighteners, which was a really, as the name of our show would imply, a pretty underrated movie.
It is, yeah. I haven't seen it in a very long time. One thing I always think about when I go back to look at podcasts like It's 1999, I specifically looked for Brian Rafferty, who literally wrote the book on the films of 1999, and it's so weird that they haven't had him on yet. I wonder what's that about.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to ask Phil next time I see him if he has any plans to talk to him.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. So why don't we dive in? I got a bunch of stuff here to talk about this week. I watched a bunch of stuff. Finally, the movies are coming out from Sundance from January. Finally, the plebs, the plebeians, the casuals, the filthy casuals finally get to see the movies that film professionals got to see super early back in January.
Right, yeah.
Our
Did you just see my letterbox show up? Joanna and Sean watched Cha-Cha Real Smooth months ago, and I was like, I wonder what that shit is.
Exactly. Yeah. So one of the ones I believe they talked about from Sundance that finally hit VOD this week was a movie called Fallout, directed by Megan Park, starring Jenna Ortega and Maddie Ziegler. This is a really, really great movie. I wish I had seen this before we did our top 5 of the year, because this would have definitely been on there. This is a movie that is essentially about 15, 16, 17-year-old girls who are in the bathroom of their school as a school shooting is happening. So it's really about their sort of PTSD, them dealing with the fallout of that. That's the name of the movie. Really, really good. Really good examination of like teenage culture today, teenage 2022 culture, Gen Z culture, how a person would actually process their feelings around a school shooting today. I think my letterbox review is basically like, this is an extremely necessary film for anybody that has a kid now. Anybody that's has a kid that's going to be going to school pretty soon. Unfortunately, this is the reality for a lot of kids these days. So I think, just watching this movie, I think would be a very good insight to show any parents to be like, this could actually happen. And I think this is a way to sort of help them, prep them for what they might have to go through.
Yeah, I mean, though that's a depressing thought,
Yeah.
Having to prep people for that, but it's the reality of this fucking nightmare we're living in currently.
Yeah. What? Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything else.
They when I ever talk about like social issues or things like this, the issue for me that if I was a parent, or if I'm talking to a parent and then the parents be like, I don't really know how to explain this, or I don't know how to deal with this. Well, you are experiencing that with them. I understand it's very painful for you to do that, but but they're fucking living it. They're fucking going through it every day. They have to wear backpacks with bulletproof lining. They have to do the drills. It's sort of like, talking about police brutality and having to explain to your kid that, well, Black parents have had to do that for decades. So I think, Steve, you'll be fine and explain to your white kid about that as well. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's just, this is the only, it's like the Onion article, only country where this regularly happens, says that nothing could happen to that whole thing. So it's, I don't know. And then, Mask just came out. It's one of those movies. It's like, I don't have kids. I don't plan to have kids. So, it would be, and that would be one of the things, is just having that kind of worry, that kind of fear, and movies that can touch on that and speak to that, like, I'm glad they exist.
Yeah. At least you have that sort of outlet to experience that secondhand. Yeah. Really good movie. I highly recommend. I think that was on Amazon. I think for $4 or $5 you can rent that there. Then I also finally caught up with Master and Commander from 2003, directed by Peter Weir. This is one of those like dad movies that they always talk about. They should be doing on like the rewatchables. That they would, Bill Simmons would just lose his mind over this movie. It's such a Bill Simmons movie.
Hey man, have you seen Master and Commander? This movie, man. It's a flawed rewatchable, I think, but it comes out right after Gladiator. Russell Crowe at the height of his game.
That's a very good Bill Simmons. That was a great Bill Simmons impression. Yeah, he's like, this dude just went on a run. Look what, like, I forget who they were talking about this week, but yeah, he was talking about people going on runs. Who are they? I forgot.
Is Russell Crowe in the early 2000s one of the all-time? He's like Bird, going off. Come on.
Is this his Jordan year? Is this his if he's Jordan, who's his Pippen? Yeah.
Yeah, you got he's like Bird, and then you've got, oh my God, you've got Castaway, Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Oh man, look at that. And Paul Bettany, he's like, George McHale coming in here.
Well, it makes sense because Paul Bettany and Russell Crowe were in Beautiful Mind that Russell Crowe won the award for, so he sort of is his Pippin.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, there you
go. Yeah, very good. I think there was like a YouTube video where a guy was like going over different movies and how accurate they were for sort of the naval combat and the historical accuracy when it came to the construction and the details. How they looked at a boat that back then, so it was, he said looking at this movie, it was one of the closest ones to that from back then that he's seen. So very good in terms of detail, getting those small details right. Yeah, really
makes
good movie.
sense. I mean, it's one of those movies I've been like, oh yeah, I'll watch Master and Commander sometime, but I never been sat down to like, I'm gonna watch a naval historical epic today. It's on my list for sure.
Yeah. It's one of those 2.5 hour movies that really, really move. It has a lot of action in it. That really doesn't feel like 2.5 hour movie. So let's get to something we both watched. Cha Cha Real Smooth came out this week on Apple TV Plus. I believe it was, like I said, one of those Sundance darlings that everyone was talking about coming out of Sundance this year. This is directed by Cooper Raiff, who had a movie out a couple years ago called Shithouse, which I also just caught up with this week. But first, let's talk about Cha Cha Real Smooth. What did you think of this movie?
It's fine. Like, it's one of those movies you're watching, like, there's not really a lot here to dissect or talk about, Like, I mean, the characters are kind of interesting. It does, spoiler alert, kind of, go against the trope of, like, oh, there's the girl and she's just married to the wrong, or engaged to the wrong guy, and then they run away together. I like that it kind of inverts that. I don't remember her name, but the actress playing the daughter is really good. Dakota Johnson's always incredible. Yeah. Although I found Dakota Johnson's character to be like one of the most infuriating characters I've seen in a movie in a long time. But yeah, it's kind of nothing. Like, it's just like, okay, yeah, you go through some stuff in your early 20s and, you grow as a person, and then that's it. That's the whole movie. And I mean, it wasn't super memorable. I kept pausing it and, like, all right, we're still going. Okay, it was like an hour 45 or something, and it was a long hour 45.
Oof,
that's fine. I enjoyed it. I thought it was. I mean, it probably sounds harsher than I enjoyed. It's one of those movies you're like, oh, I'm glad I watched that, literally never going to watch it again as long as I live.
yeah, I hear you. Vanessa Burkhart was the daughter Lola. Dakota Johnson's daughter in there. I'm not sure if she's actually autistic, but if she's not, she did a spot on impression of that. Cooper Raiff is a weird actor. I checked out, like I said, Shithouse right before this or right after this, and the character in that is sort of similar to here, where he's just like he's sort of like charismatic, but sort of not, and sort of like, he gets along with Dakota Johnson's daughter, and I think that's probably the best scene in the movie where he's like. He says to Dakota, if I get your daughter to dance, will you? I forget what he meant. It was like a deal he made with her. And so, there's always that nice scene of like a guy getting along with the kid or whatever and being good with kids. That's always a nice scene. But yeah, just overall, he didn't really have, he seems to be struggling to like produce enough charisma to be on screen, to be captivating on screen. I did enjoy Leslie Mann. She was pretty funny in this as Cooper Raiff's mother in this. But yeah, like you said, just I don't know. It sort of did have a weird tone to it, where he's leaving Dakota Johnson's house for the last time, and her husband Raul Castillo comes out, and you think it's going to be the scene where they sort of argue back and forth, but it's really not. He sort of comes out and he's like, "Yeah, no, I understand the situation here. I understand you guys are just friends, and we're having a hard time, so I appreciate you being there for her." So it was a nice little twist on that usual scene, that usual like conflict or that sort of scene. But yeah, overall, just like a 7, soft 7.
Yeah. And I really did like the scene or the moment when she's kind of talking to him, and he's like, we seem so good because it's all potential, like it's not real, and yes. I think that's something that's missing from so many romantic comedies, especially the romantic comedies that play on the trope of like, oh, somebody in a bad relationship, and then you come along, and then the movie ends, and it's a movie that I enjoy a lot more, which is the 5-year engagement does really well. It's like, okay, well, what happens when you're in the relationship? You're out of the honeymoon period, you have to live with it, and it's something that I think the Before Sunset or Before Midnight does really well after having those two movies that are all kind of about like, oh, and now this is them being in a relationship 9 years later. And that line I thought was really powerful. It's something that I could definitely relate to, having, seen you always see like the potential in people, and then you're just like, oh, well, how is this actually going to be in real life? So yeah, it was that part I enjoyed a lot. I think I gave it like a 3.5 on my Letterboxd out of 5. So yeah, I'd probably be about the same, like a 7 or 8.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of movies there that remind you of this. It's sort of that lost in translation thing where you have this sort of like, back and forth, this like weird dance that they're doing, sort of like they're talking all night. I'll talk about Shithouse for a second, just because it's sort of similar, and he has this one night. One of those nights you have somebody where you're drunk and you talk about like existential stuff and philosophical stuff, and you have this really great night with the person, and then the next morning, the woman is just like, "Can you just leave? That was just that was just sort of a one night thing, and I didn't want to say it, but I have to now because you're making it awkward." So it had that going on, and Cooper Raiff overall in both of these movies has this. His characters have this personality that I recognize in so many people, and it's such a turnoff for me because I've seen those type of people and I hate those type of people. So for him to put that front and center in the screen, to ask me to feel empathetic for that person is a big stretch for me personally.
Yeah, I really kind of didn't care about him or Dakota Johnson. I mean, the kid was a really interesting performance, really awesome. That was the one character I kind of felt connection and empathy for. And maybe the little brother too. But that was about it. It's a fine movie. It's fine and forgettable.
Yeah. Speaking of fine and forgettable movies with pretty good child actors in it, I watched The Black Phone last night in theaters. Seems like this movie will do pretty well just based on the theater that I went to. I think every seat was taken. We don't have giant theaters in here, but there's probably 80, 90, 100 people in the theater, so should do pretty well this weekend. This movie is directed by Scott Derrickson, who anybody that's familiar with his work know he did Sinister with Ethan Hawke in 2012. I believe he did The Exorcism of Emily Rose as well, so he's got that horror thing going on in him. He was He did Doctor Strange, the first one.
Doctor Strange. Yeah.
Yes.
And then he got kicked off the second one unofficially, but like they were like, "Oh, it's a mutual thing." And it's like, "Okay, it never is," but with Marvel, but sure.
Creative differences is the word they always use, and it's always weird. I always like to know, like, what is the movie he wanted to make and how different would it be? I'm always interested to know what a movie will look like with a different director. But
he's more of a studio guy than I think Raimi would be, which is interesting. But
yeah. This is a very grounded movie. This is a movie that I didn't know it was going to be like this going in. I thought it was going to be very different. Not to spoil too much of it, but it is very much a movie where it's like 127 hours. It takes place in one room, basically the entire thing. So, but it doesn't quite reach those heights. I think 127 hours is a rare movie in that it makes it holds your attention even though you're in one spot for hour and a half, 2 hours. This one doesn't quite do that. I think this actress named Madeline McGraw plays Mason Thames' sister, and she steals every scene she's in. She's incredible. There's one part where she's like praying to Jesus to either help give her some sign of where he is, or have some adult help her or whatever, and then nothing happens for a few days, and she goes back into her study, and she's like sitting down and praying, and she's like, Jesus, what the fuck, man? What are you doing? Are you even here? Do you even give a shit? She's really funny. Like, she swears a lot. Kids swearing is always funny to me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this stars Ethan Hawke as the grabber. He is the titular grabber of kids. It's one of those. It has a lot of Stephen King oeuvre to it, a lot of Stephen King DNA over this, which makes sense because.
Well, speaking of Stephen King DNA, that's why. Because it was from Stephen King's DNA that we got this movie.
Exactly. His balls produced the kid that wrote this. What's his son's name is escaping me for the moment.
Joe Hill.
Joe Hill, thank you. Yeah, he wrote the short story that this movie is based on. So it does have that sort of kids on bike, Amblin, Steven Spielberg sort of thing going through it. Takes place in 1978, so it has that sort of retro kids on bike thing to it. But overall, it doesn't really hold your attention. I think it definitely peters out near the end, just because it sort of has to sort of change up the tone and change up the stakes and give you a sort of different feel, even though you're in the same like space almost the entire movie. So I think that's a really challenging. I think Scott Derrickson, had a really challenging movie to make, and he didn't quite make it there, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it seemed like kind of just. I'm probably not going to say it, to be honest. Like, nothing against Scott Derrickson. I do, like I said, really like Sinister. But it's I like horror. For me to go see a horror movie, it's got to be something kind of more than run of the mill, something I haven't seen before, and this seems like something I've seen before a lot of times.
A lot of times, yeah, exactly. So why don't we jump over to some TV we've been watching? Since I mentioned Obi-Wan finished up this week, its 6th episode this week came out. Yeah. What did you think of the last episode and the series overall?
So, this overall, the first 5 episodes, I was like, fuck this. I was not into it at all. I could not care less. I was on the verge of being like, I am just done with this Star Wars show. All the Star Wars shows. Mandalorian was fucking great, but God, Boba Fett was a fucking slog. I hated that show, except for when it pretended to be the Mandalorian. And the first 5 episodes of Obi-Wan were like pretty cool at best, but most of the time just by the numbers, like, now we have to go on this adventure, and there was some cool stuff with Leia, but it felt just like, I'm like, all right, well, Vader and Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, they've already fought to the death once and not killed each other. We got to do that like 2 more times now, apparently, and I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care about any of these. There's all these machinations and these new characters who I'm not connected to at all, and I already know who's gonna live and die. Luke's gonna be fine, Owen's gonna be fine, Obi-Wan and Vader can't kill each other. And then the last episode, out of nowhere, was fucking incredible. I was like, God damn, I was knocked on my ass. Everything about it was so good. Like, like the Reva stuff, when I was like, oh, good, she's gonna go to the planet and get Luke, I was like enthralled. Like, okay, I know Luke's gonna get through this, but like her emotional arc, they actually made me care so much about her in a way that I didn't care about. Like they tried to in the previous episode make me care about the lady who got blown up, and I was like, I missed the cool loader robot who held the wrench like he was Ryan Gosling in Drive, but like I didn't care about the lady, but then Reva's emotional arc was so freaking cool, and then I was like, all right, I don't care about Vader going to see Obi-Wan. We gotta see him fight and knowing nothing's gonna happen. But that was the fight. First of all, looked so cool. Like it was so just visual, and the fight was visceral, and you could see it on their faces. And then what they were saying to each other it hits home so much, and it retroactively made things in A New Hope better. Like when he's he's got the face, because I've never really been able to connect that Anakin Skywalker is played by Hayden Christensen is the same character as Darth Vader voiced by James Earl Jones. There's just a disconnect in my brain because they're such different performances and voices. But when you actually saw he's saying all these things to Obi-Wan, addressing things that we've seen both Anakin and Vader care about, and his voice is kind of fluctuating back, and you see the half eye. Finally, my brain clicked, and like, there we go. That's the like I understood it logically always, but now I understand it emotionally. And the thing he says, he's like, "You didn't kill Anakin. I killed Anakin." That hit me so hard, and it was such a good line. And it also makes his lie to Luke so much more palatable about like a certain point of view.
Yep.
That's all. And then he leaves, and I'm like, okay, I don't even care that this fight is ending like this, because I was like upset that it was going to end like this, but I'm fine with it. Like, yeah, this is good. And then, you get the stuff where you see just Aunt Beru's like, we got a shotgun now, let's go get her. And I was like, what? And that was just so fucking cool. And then you have Leia's theme come back when he's saying goodbye to Leia, and he's like, if you ever need to see me again. And like, I think that's the first time the Leia theme is played. Like, one of the all-time great musical motifs is just this John Williams. Oh, so fucking great. I absolutely loved it. And then I'm like, all right, I'm just waiting the last 5 minutes. He says the hello there. I'm like, good, yes, okay, good. And then I'm like, just give me Qui-Gon. Just stop. I know, you just stop teasing me. I know he's gonna show up. And then he's like, oh, you didn't think you would do an Obi-Wan show without my Force Ghost? I'm like, you son of a bitch, you did it. So it gave me everything I wanted as like for like a fanboy thing, but also for like a storytelling thing, because it was only doing the first half in the first few episodes, but it really delivered on emotional level for me. And I was like, all right, I'm back in Star Wars. You got me again. Just what I thought I was out. You pulled me back in. I want to just watch that last episode again because it was so cool.
Yeah. Well said. You said all the things.
Hey, I took all the talking points. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's great. The rest of my voice. Did you say you've watched Rebels, the cartoon show?
I haven't watched Rebels. I've watched not a lot of the animated stuff. I've watched all of the live action stuff, but I haven't seen Rebels, or I've seen some of Clone Wars, and I couldn't do the Bad Batch. Yeah.
On the podcast today, they were referencing the fact that I did see the one scene. I haven't seen Rebels either, but I did see the one scene where Ahsoka pretty much does the same thing. She mirrors this fight with Vader in the animated series, and she cuts the opposite side of his face, and I believe it was Vader or Anakin who has the first word and says he says Ahsoka, and that leads Ahsoka to realize who it is. But in this one, they sort of flip it and make it so that Obi-Wan cuts a different side of his face, and also it's also Obi-Wan who speaks first and says Anakin. Incredible, very so incredibly emotional. One of the best acting jobs by Ewan McGregor in his career. Really, you feel the pain in his voice, you see it in his face. I think the cinematography was incredible in that fight, because you see the red lightsaber and the blue lightsaber mixing and melding, and as you see the blue light sort of coming into Vader's face, that's when Anakin's part of him starts to bleed out, and you hear his voice over Vader's, and then when the red light starts to overwhelm the blue, that's when Vader's voice starts to come in and overwhelm Anakin. So I think the whole thing was really, really staged so well. Yeah.
Looks, and I love that they are now using the lights. And I think they did this with the newer films too. But they're using lightsabers that emit like a glowing light, so they don't have to add anything in post. So it works so well, and it makes just everything around it look so much more realistic. And lighting is a very tricky thing to do. So it really works to its advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah. Really, really glad it stuck to landing. It's been so long since I watched the Mandalorian. I think didn't season 2 end with, ended with Luke, right? That was the big reveal at the end of the Mandalorian.
Yeah, he shows up on the ship and he's like, "Hey, I got Yoda, little baby Yoda." Yeah.
So that's sort of.
I was trying to remember. I was like, "Wait, more stuff happened after that." I'm like, "No, that was in Book of Boba Fett. That was just a random episode of Boba Fett. That was the Mandalorian."
Yeah. So two out of 3 of the stuff, or however many there have been of the Star Wars, is live action stuff stuck to landing. Yeah. Really good show. They were talking about, would you want a season 2? Do you think they'll do a season 2? Would you want a season 2? What would even happen in a season 2?
I absolutely not, because how many? I mean, they can't have Vader chase him down again and have them have another fight to the death that doesn't end. I mean, so the only thing you could do is maybe have Darth Maul, but in Rebels, that's where he dies, so you can't have him die. So I don't really know what you do. His emotional arc seems pretty complete. Yeah. They really feel it. Like there's not a lot left between. Now this is between. This was like, okay, well, what was Obi-Wan doing before New Hope? Okay, well, what was he doing after New Hope? Now, what is he doing in between those? You're really filling in the cracks. There's not a lot of space left.
Yeah, no, I think this one season should absolutely be it. But you never know. They'll try to try to get all the blood from a stone as much as they can.
Yeah. And it felt very standalone, which is something I appreciated, because I was worried, or I was talking with a couple of my co-hosts, and I was like, I wanted to just be an Obi-Wan thing and not be like the Mandalorian season 2 or like Boba Fett, where it's just like, and now we're setting something up for another Star Wars. This was just like, this is a story. It's complete on its own. You don't have like somebody show up that's like a little character you can tell is gonna be a person in season 3 of the Mandalorian or anything. It's like in 20 years I'll see a kid, like none of that shit. So it was just its own thing, and I'm like, I'm all for Star Wars doing more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So another Disney Plus show that is on episode 3 is Ms. Marvel. We learned some things about her past, a lot about her family's past here. What do you think of this episode?
Oh man, I think I might be an episode behind then. Because I'm trying to think what was okay. I'm trying to think what the last thing that happened was. I think I've only seen the first 2 episodes, because they only released 1 episode on launch date, right?
True. Yep. So,
okay, because they usually do the 2 for,
yeah. The last episode, she meets with the people that came and were like, "We're here to help. We're stuck." Did they reveal that they what's his name, Rafum? I forgot the guy's name, but the guy that she has a crush on, and then she got into the car with his family. Right, that was the end of episode 2.
Oh, that was the end of the episode. So yeah, I think I am an episode behind.
Oh, so. Okay. I'll let you watch that. But yeah, no, it's fine. All right. I'll let you catch up with that, and we can talk about that next time, or even episode 4, maybe 5, on the next episode. So let me see. You checked out. Let's see, where are you at here? Severance. You binged the entire season. Did you do this?
Suggestion.
Yeah. Did you do this all in one shot?
No, because I didn't. I started it after work one night, and then I had to go to work, and I was like, all right, well, how much more can I watch? I close tomorrow, so I can watch a couple more. And then I was up till like 2 a.m. I was like, all right, well, I'm only halfway through the show. I gotta watch more. And then I would just do the same thing the next night. I'm like, okay, I'll watch a couple more. So I ended up being like 3 sittings, but like late into the night, like, all right, how far can I push this before I actually have to go to sleep? But I was just thinking about it like all day, like, oh man, I got it. But yeah, at your suggestion, I went and checked it out, and man, you're absolutely right. It is an incredible show. Like, just knocked it out of the park, this show.
Yeah, really great performances by Adam Scott. Well, by everybody really, because at a certain point they all have to do this thing where they switch completely from one personality to another on a dime. And I think they all do it really, really well. Especially Adam Scott. There's this moment where one of them tries to kill themselves. I mean, we'll just say all spoilers for this whole thing. I think we talked about this already a little bit on the Best of the Year show so far. But Holly, the female of the group, tried to kill herself, and the HR rep was like, "I need you to express kindness through your eyes. You need to have kind eyes." And Adam Scott does this like look on his face where he's like trying to force a kind look with his mouth and his eyes, and it's the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was like her. She was so interesting because you get to see a lot of Adam Scott's outside life, but none of the others until that last episode. And man, like the reveal that she is an Egan was. I was like, I did not see that coming. That caught me off guard. But man, yeah, that was so cool, and it checks with her character, and that whole thing where she tries to kill herself, and because she's just like has no life, she just works all the time, and her other self being like, you are not a person. And I love that moment when she's like, well, like Adam Scott's like, oh, maybe we're assholes outside. She's like, well, I know I'm an asshole outside, and then you find out, oh, you are an asshole outside. I am so curious to see where they go next with this, because such interesting storytelling. You can really tell that this is something that they spent a lot of time developing. I think it was like 5 years, and then you had Ben Stiller who came in, and he is obviously such a talented director and has been around film his entire life, growing up with his parents being such famous comedians. But yeah, I'm really glad that I decided to get Apple Plus and watch this because it is some of the best TV that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, the performances are really weird. You have Miss Casey, who ended up being his wife, right?
Yes.
At the end. Yeah.
That caught me off too. I was like, oh my gosh. And he's in like he's got like kind of 3 love interests, but you don't like, you're like, okay, well, you're always 2 different people, so I guess it kind of makes sense, and one you think is dead, so like oh man, it's just there's so much, there's so many threads, and you're just like, where is this all gonna go? I will say I do disagree with you about the last episode. I thought the last episode was fantastic. I didn't think that if anything, I was like, I feel like it didn't really answer that much. It gave some character stuff, but I was like, I want to know more about the world. It gave me a glimpse, but I didn't think it was really doing too much world building. I thought I could have used more, if anything.
Right. No, I was just saying, like, at the beginning, they get into why Mark is there. He's trying to escape this trauma that he's experienced, and I thought that they sort of put that in the back burner to really forefront the mystery box of it. Who was Keegan, who was Egan, what's the company about, what are they making? You have those penguins, right, in some random room. You have
the sheep
you have the sheep,
the goats,
yeah, the goats that Bert and Irving find, which I just realized, just saying that out loud now, is like Bert and Ernie. That's weird. But they have a weird thing together, and as they're sort of like developing that relationship, they get into, like you said, the goat stuff and that whole other department, and the feud between that department and the other department. I felt like with all of that extra stuff going on, I felt like they sort of backburnered the Mark stuff a little bit too much. That's all.
I was really I get what you're saying, but I was definitely really interested in because it is like kind of giving us some more mystery box type stuff, but it felt like it's just setting up future plot stuff, and the reveal that she is an Egan I thought was so interesting, and all the reveals of what's going on in their life. And this is a point I'm stealing from Joanna Robinson, and she talks about how Damon Lindelof would say that the best answer to a mystery is a person, and that was the famous reveal from in season 2 of Lost is what's in the hatch. It's a Scotsman, it's a drunk Scotsman. And so like the reveal, all these reveals in Severance that have been so effective are like, these are people. What's this mystery? His wife is alive. Oh, what's the mystery about who she is on the outside? Oh, she's this character that we've heard about, an Egan. So I thought all of that really hit. And what's going on with Christopher Walken? Oh, he's got a husband, and I really want to go back and I might rewatch it because it was so good.
Yeah, very, very good show. Yep, can't wait for season 2. Let's see what you got here. Live from the space stage, the Helix story. Tell me about this.
Yeah, so this is a documentary. It's a YouTube documentary done by, if anybody out there listening is familiar with Kevin Perger, who he is kind of the guy behind the Defunctland YouTube channel that they do video essays about like old theme park rides and old theme park things that like broke down, or like theme park history. And this was a doc that he produced. He didn't direct it, but he produced it, and it's like a full length documentary with interviews from like people in the professional industry and stuff like that. And it is about this 1981 band that was played at the Disneyland stage that the Disney record company made. Created this band kind of whole cloth, and it's the best way they can describe it, and they describe it several ways in the film. This way is Kiss meets Star Wars. Like, you have this big Wookiee looking guy, and everybody's like playing on the stage at Space Mountain, like doing like this future, like this great 80s future thing. And it's this really interesting story about this small time period when this band was together and they played and made this amazing music and people loved it, and you can't even really find, and there was no recordings or anything other than just like people recording on their camcorders and stuff like that in the 80s. And it's a really, if you like music documentaries, this is a really unique, interesting one, and I got very emotional watching it a couple times.
Oh wow, definitely have to check that out. So it was Live from the Space Stage, a Halleck story. And also you checked out Disney's Fast Pass, A Complicated History. I've heard this on a few different podcasts. I think Slash Daily did this a few months ago. Tell me about this.
Yeah, once again, this one is the Kevin Perger. He actually did direct this one. He produced it. It's another full-length doc that went up on YouTube, and he narrates it, does all the things for this. And this is, me having grown up, I don't know how interesting this is going to be for anyone else because it's a very niche topic, but once again, it's about Disneyland, and it's kind of about the Fast Pass system that they invented, which is basically, in layman's terms, like a way to kind of like get to the front of the line, and the like microeconomics that built out of that, and how it became a huge problem for them and what they did to correct that, and how like everything kind of changed. And they have like these really interesting, like in-depth, like he hired like a mathematician to like do this whole like breakdown and like figure out all these different statistics. So it's really just like, even if you're not a huge theme park fan, I think it is just kind of like an interesting story into, how humans behave and corporations, and how the corporations use that and how that can turn against them. So I would recommend it for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I'm always curious about this stuff because, I think we're at a stage, I think late stage capitalism is going to just eat itself, because we're at this point where people are online right now, and like, it's such like a military operation to like get there early. Yeah. And even if you buy the fast pass, you get there early, you still might not get on all the rides. And it's such just a fascinating look into like, the king of capitalism right now is Disney, and even they can't figure out how to make more money. It's like, we have all the money, people are coming in here, and we got to figure out how to get this many people in and this many people out. It's really fascinating how they're just like, we have everything, we have control of everything, and now we just need to squeeze out a little bit more money, and we're just trying to figure out how to just get more money. How? Yep. it's crazy. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And also NBA finals and NHA finals happened this week. Are they all done? Are they still going? What's going on?
So, as of recording, the NBA Finals have ended. The Golden State Warriors were victorious over the Boston Celtics. I know Dion's going to be sad about that, but I'm very happy about it.
Bill Simmons is sad.
Yes, Bill Simmons is sad. I am definitely a Celtics hater. Being a Lakers fan, I am just glad whenever the Celtics lose. So that was great. I'm really glad to see, finally, Steph Curry, after having this amazing career. The one thing he never got was an NBA Finals MVP, and that happens when you have Kevin Durant on your team. The year before Kevin Durant came, that he still won. I think it went to Andre Iguodala, because LeBron James honestly should have won, even though he the MVP that year, even though he lost the series. LeBron James was just so incredible, so they just like, just give it to the guy who's guarding LeBron. But yeah, he's kind of got this feather in his cap now that people have always, like, Steph haters have always kind of pointed, well, he never won the MVP in the finals, and now he's like, yeah, I did it, and he had an absolutely incredible performance. So it was a good finals. It was really back and forth. Had a lot of fun with it. Statistically, it was one of those things where it's like it looked like on paper the Celtics should win, but I was like, come on, it's the Warriors. These guys have been here before. They know what they're doing. 2 years ago, they had the worst record in the league after being in the NBA Finals the year before, and now they're back. Like, nobody does that. It was so cool to see. I'm really glad for them. And I got to root for the California team.
Nice. And what's going on with the NHL finals?
So
Yeah.
hopefully this isn't outdated
Yeah.
by the time the episode
Okay.
drops because game 6 is tomorrow, and
Hmm.
as recording stands right now, the Tampa Bay Lightning are losing. It's 3 games to 2 in favor of the Colorado Avalanche, but it has been. I said the NBA finals were great. This has been a really great finals. This has been 538 wrote a piece before the finals even started about you don't get to see the two best teams play each other in the NHL finals very often, and it's happening for the first time in like 30 years or something,
Wow.
and it has not disappointed. Um, 2 of the 3 games have gone into overtime, or 2 of the 5 games have gone into overtime. Both were won by the Avs, unfortunately, which breaks my heart, including one that was a bullshit ending because there was too many men on the ice and the penalty didn't get called and the Avalanche scored.
Oh,
That was very frustrating. Then
wow.
there was 2 blowouts where one was where the Avalanche just destroyed them and people were like, "Oh, the Lightning are going to get swept." They came back the next game and then the Lightning blew out the Avalanche, and yesterday one of the best hockey games I've seen in how I don't know how long. The two of them, it was a really close game, back and forth. Lightning kept going up, and then they would Avalanche would tie it. They kept going up, and finally they ended up winning in the end of the game. So it was really good. Game 6 is tomorrow. I'm really pulling. You guys listening at home will know what happened before I do. But it's hopefully Lightning can win that and push this great series to Game 7, an epic conclusion. So I'm really hoping to see that, and just I'm rooting for the Avalanche because I love Corey Perry. So if that happens, you'll hear me on the next podcast very happy. If they have already lost, you can know that I'll be very sad wherever I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah. Awesome. And finally, you watch The Great. Is this? I want to watch this because I really liked the 2018 movie The Favorite, which I believe this has. It's like similar setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
From that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very kind of like similar. Just what's the guy's name? It's the guy who he also did Death of Stalin. So he's very kind of satirical,
Yeah.
witty, just great character driven humor in all of his stuff. This is based on he's a playwright primarily, and this is based on a play that he wrote. Uh, all of the characters are so interesting and endearing. What really sells it are the 2 leads more than anything. As great as everyone else is, you have Elle Fanning and Nicholas Hoult playing Catherine the Great and Peter and the kind of monarchy of Russia. And it's one of those shows that is really you're always laughing, but it also has a lot of heart. And it's kind of a show. It's like can't the kind of core question is like, can you change people? Can you change the world? And can a person really change no matter how bad they are? Can they become a better person? Can the world become a better place? Can one person really make a difference? And it's just so fucking good. Like I
Hmm.
watched season 1 when it came out. I started season 2 when it started, and I kind of fell off it because there was so much to watch. And then I
Yeah.
binged the last 7 episodes of season 2, like pretty much in one sitting. And yeah, I cannot recommend this show enough.
Nice. And that's on FX, I believe. FX and Hulu.
Hulu, yeah, I think it's a Hulu original, and
Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's described as a occasionally true story because it's one of those historical shows that
Yeah.
only really kind of just takes the names and a couple of important events from history and just kind of is like, yeah, well, we'll do our own thing. It's not going
Yeah.
to be historically accurate, but that's kind of the point.
Yes. I think the name you're thinking of that created the show or is writing the show is Luca Guadagnino, right?
That
That
sounds
did.
right.
Yeah. Now that is right, I believe. But then I've been googling for the last 5 minutes trying to find it. But the only person that's
Oh
coming
no, it's
up.
Tony McNamara. Tony
Yes.
McNamara. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Because you mentioned the Death of Stalin. I thought he was on that. Are
Oh no,
this?
he was okay. So maybe I'm wrong because he did
Yeah.
he did do The Favorite, so that's why you were saying The Favorite.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
and apparently
Remind me of
he
the.
did
Yeah.
Cruella, but I think he just was one of like many writers
Ah.
on Cruella.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha. Very
yeah,
cool. Very cool. And then before we get to our top five, just want to mention real quick, finally got through The Stand. I've been reading a bunch of Stephen King's most notable works over the past few months, and I finally got to his biggest and what a lot of people considered one of his best works, and it is very, very good. Comes in at a hefty 48 hours in the audiobook. I think it's 1,100 pages if you get the actual book. Blasted through it at 1.7 speed, so blasted through that in about 2 or 3 days. Very, very good. If you're a fan of his work, obviously, if you know anything about Stephen King's work, a lot of it sort of cross-pollinates with a lot of the same characters, a lot of the same events are referenced throughout the book. So if you've read any of the other books, you'll notice a lot of similar names. Roland Deschain, or not Roland Deschain, he's the main guy in the Dark Tower, but the Randall Flagg is the man in black that chases Roland Deschain throughout the desert, throughout the Dark Tower series, and he's the big bad in The Stand as well. So if you want to see the continuing adventures of Randall Flagg, definitely check out The Stand. It's very good.
Very nice, very nice.
Yes. And you've also been reading some stuff this week. Is this book form or is this audiobook form?
This is book form.
Okay.
So this is the one thing that is, you talked about how this is a defining work for Stephen King with a lot of characters that are referenced in a lot of other works and a lot of crossovers, and it's a massive tome. And this is all of that, but maybe the one work that is bigger on all of those fronts. And I'm finally reading The Lord of the Rings. I have finished book 1, not The Fellowship of the Ring, because people don't realize that it's actually 6 books in 3 volumes. But I just got to the meeting at Rivendell, where kind of all the people are showing up. But yeah, I was like 100 pages in, and I was like, man, they're still in the Shire. But you can see why it's a good. I tried to do it in high school. I never finished it, but yeah, it is obviously a seminal work. I've seen the movie so many times, but there's obviously so much more density in the book and history, and he'll be like, here's a song, and here let me just tell you the entire history of the elves for 3 pages, and all right, cool, and here's Tom Bombadil. Who the fuck is this guy? I don't know, but like,
love him.
He showed up, and I was like, I don't know who this fucking guy is, but he seems pretty cool, and
great book.
I'm digging it so far.
Yeah, I've listened to the audiobooks. I think it was last year or the year before. Just incredible. What do you think, real quick, do you think if because this is a book, this is a series that has a beginning, middle, and an end. If J.R.R. Tolkien was alive today and writing the Lord of the Rings books, if they came out 10, 15 years ago, there'd probably be more prequels and more sequels, and the Obi-Wan show would be called the Aragorn show, the Bilbo show, the whatever show. There'd be just a million other things if he was writing these books today, right?
Damian, I don't think you are that familiar with the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, because there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of works. But he's also he was constantly writing about characters in this. There'll be people that are met, and it'll have a little asterisk. It's there's a footnote here, and it'll be okay, yeah, this character is a character that's referenced in Unfinished Tales, and it's you'll have this book, and they're still he wrote so much shit that there's literally still 2022 there is a new book of his coming out, because there's so much of his writing that they keep being all right, well, this is a half-finished thing, and we're finished. If I go to work, there's just so much just Tolkien, and it's all just stuff, and it all is connected MCU style through this one thing, these stories, and they'll be oh, well, this is the Lord of the Rings, and I don't think he didn't even consider Lord of the Rings his biggest thing, because Sauron was only a lieutenant, and he's oh, well, Morgoth, that's the real big bad, and it would be this is his Age of Ultron almost. You're James Spader over here. So this is so he might be the one who did. He's the OG of doing the Obi-Wan spin-offs and all this stuff.
I had no idea there was that. Excuse me. I had no idea there was that many prequels and sequels and all that stuff already.
So much. Huh. Yeah, and Christopher Tolkien wrote a bunch. He finished a bunch of his stuff, and now his grandkids are working on all these unfinished works. There's I can't remember them, but there's literally a book coming out later this month that is quote unquote by J.R.R. Tolkien. That's insane. I had no idea. Yeah. Wow. He died in the 70s or the late or the early 80s or something that. Yeah. Wow. Incredible. All right, so let's get to our top 5. The movie that was based off this week was Spiderhead. It's fine. It's literally fine. It'll just roll through one ear, out the other. Chris Hemsworth is fine in this. There was absolutely no reason whatsoever to have this man in this movie. I think the movie cost $100 million, and I think Chris Hemsworth his contract demands him to be paid at least 20 or 30 million. So it's you could have shaved off 30 million right there without having him in this freaking thing. It's literally fine. Miles Teller is fine in this. Journey Smollett is good, but it's fine. It's fine.
I
Yeah.
watched that this week. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same vibes for this one that I did with the Black Phone. I'm like,
Yes.
whatever. Like, there's nothing I haven't seen this before. I'm probably not gonna watch it. I might. It's on Netflix, so I'm a lot more likely to watch it than I am the
Yeah.
Black Phone and just like throw it on one day, like I did with Cha Cha Real Smooth. But I don't have any desire to go watch Spiderhead.
Well, I mean, one good thing that came out of it was that it expired our list of egomaniacal tech geniuses, which I went back and I watched. I think this will spoil my list, but I went back and watched The Social Network. I won't say where I put it on my list, but it definitely inspired part of my list. I went back and watched it, and it's still an incredible movie. Absolutely incredible. That one of the first movies that came out this decade was, I think, crowned the best movie of the decade on many people's lists. Jesse Eisenberg, obviously, in that, just incredible. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's get to it.
Last decade,
yes.
It was 12 years ago now, 13 years ago almost.
Yeah, absolutely insane. They really need a sequel to that because there's just so much has happened since then. Kicking off my list at number 5, I have The Wolf of Wall Street.
My name is Jordan Belfort. The year I turned 26, I made $49 million, which really pissed me off because it was 3 shy of $1 million a week.
We're making a name for ourselves.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles. You know what a fugazi is?
Oh, Fugazi. It's fake.
Yeah, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust.
So this is expanding the parameters of tech geniuses and tech stuff. Definitely egomaniacal guy, right? Spent a lot of his life just trying to gobble up as much money as humanly possible by getting people to buy penny stocks. I believe it's been a very long time since I've seen this movie. When's the last time you saw Wolf of Wall Street? Do you remember?
It might have even been in the theater. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've watched it all the way through since I saw it originally.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that you turn it on, it's like, holy shit, this thing's 3 hours, and then you put it on, and it flies. It actually does fly pretty quickly.
Yeah, it moves.
It does. Yeah, exactly. Early great performance by Jonah Hill. One of the first times the world saw Margot Robbie. It spawned, obviously, the meme of Matthew McConaughey doing the that whole thing. John Berthold was great in this. I forgot he was in that. But yeah, really great movie, really great performance. Yeah. I guess Leo is like Mr. Clean and Sober, or either does no drugs, no alcohol, or just only does alcohol because I guess he had to ask people how people perform on drugs, on very strong painkillers and very strong whatever drugs he was taking in that movie. So that whole thing it wasn't improvised, but it was definitely a tough scene for him to fake all that stuff.
Okay. I heard that about Scorsese. Like, he didn't know how to direct him because he's so clean, and so he's like, I don't really, Quaaludes. What are those?
Exactly, the Ludes. Yep, Quaaludes. Yep. Yeah, great movie. Number 5, Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes. What is your number 5?
So my number 5 is Elliot Carver, as played by Jonathan Pryce in Tomorrow Never Dies.
Action stations. Aye, sir. Sound the general alarm. The Chinese pilot insists we're inside their territorial waters and he will fire.
An act of violence.
Torpedo, torpedo, torpedo. It was an unprovoked attack on a ship in international waters.
The promise of war.
And instead of decisive action, all you want to do is investigate.
My goal is to prevent World War III, Admiral.
Now, the world has only one chance for peace.
When will our ships be in position? 48 hours.
And just one man for the job.
Bond. James Bond.
Yeah, which is, I always thought was a very, very kind of like, people hate on that movie, I think, because it's, people love GoldenEye, obviously, and then the later 2 Brosnan films are real bad. And I think this gets kind of lumped in with those, but it is definitely, it's no GoldenEye, but it is a real step up above what comes later. And I think that the villain, Elliot Carver, Jonathan Pryce, gives a great performance as just kind of like he's like, okay, this is the new kind of Bond villain. He's not like somebody who's trying to take over the world. He's like, I want to sell fucking newspapers. I want to get really rich. And how am I going to sell newspapers? You know what sells? War. And I'm going to use my tech genius guy stuff to create a war between Britain and China, and I just thought that's such an interesting, intriguing plan, and he's just kind of this like, he's got the little glasses, and he's got like not quite a turtleneck, but like he wears a very kind of similar thing, and even when he's like being the maniacal bad guy, he's just still like so, like, well, here comes Bond, and he's like, Cobb, I'll get him. He's always got his little henchman, and he's so smart, and he's always like a step ahead of everybody. I really dug the performance. That's my favorite Jonathan Pryce performance, which he's an incredible actor. Yeah. It really sells the movie. Without him, I don't think the movie works. Or at least an actor of that caliber, because I know that originally it was supposed to be Anthony Hopkins and he dropped out. Oh. So I do think you need somebody who has that kind of gravitas, because this guy thinks he is like larger than life, and a real life Mark Zuckerberg kind of guy who's like, I am thinks he's the most important person in the room whenever he walks into any room, and just acts like he's the shit, and the world just exists to be his plaything, and he can just manipulate people using this technology that he has. And Bond movies have always been really smart about technology, but this felt like, okay, they're using it for something real in the world. Like, obviously, news organizations benefit from horrible things happening in the world, and I just thought there was a really kind of great taking down of that. You have decades later, people like oh, let's put like the war on TV, and like we'll make money from that, or we'll put this fucking clown reality TV show guy on TV because it's getting us a lot of ratings. Oh, whoops, he's the president now because we gave him a bunch of airtime. So I really thought that was very prescient and interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see, where did he go? Terry Hatcher was in this, playing Paris Carver. You have Michelle Yeoh, Wylin. Speaking of Everything Everywhere All at Once, she was a Bond girl in that, so that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good pick there. Let me see. Moving on to my number 4. One you probably wouldn't think of as an egomaniacal tech villain. Will Ferrell as President and Lord Business in the Lego Movie.
Yes! Overpriced coffee.
That's $37.
Awesome!
Everything is awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love this song.
It's cool when we're part of the team. Everything is awesome.
No, guys, wait up! Where am I?
Come with me if you want to not die.
Right? I mean, it's technically in there. Yeah, I'm stretching the
That's good.
The definition of it. Yeah. I just checked out what was it, the Lego Batman movie for the first time this week, so definitely top of mind here. Movie. It is really great. Surprisingly great, actually. Don't have much to say about it, but I haven't seen it in a very long time. But it's just that all these movies, really, this one and Batman, the Lego Batman movie, have an interesting, emotional back to it. This one was about him trying to reconnect with his child and his childhood, and that sort of sense of wonderment that you have as a kid building things with the Legos. And it was a very interesting way of saying, these things that you don't really own them, and how to have a good relationship with your sister, and how to collaboration, how all that stuff works. So yeah, really, really interesting, much more deep movie, I think, than anyone would have thought coming out of a movie called The Lego Movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely, yeah. What is your number 4?
So my number 4 is the Borg Queen from Star Trek First Contact.
In his nightmares, he can see them. In his mind, he can hear them.
Look who it is.
In his soul, he can feel them.
I've just received a report from Deep Space 5. Long-range sensors have picked up...
Yes, I know. The Borg. Set a course for Earth. Maximum warp.
Now, in Earth's darkest hour, he must fight them again.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, this is another one that's maybe a little bit not what people would expect, but she is, I think, definitely a tech villain. She has an entire species of people, of minions, they're like the beehive or whatever, and it's kind of a parable, I guess, about our dependence on technology, and how this movie came out in the 90s, so it's become more and more relevant as we go along. And obviously we need technology, and technology is so helpful, but if we become our technology, become reliant on it, and it's it's very dangerous, and just kind of about how we all kind of assimilate. That's the thing. The Borg are always assimilating. And I think that the storyline that Data has, where, he has this kind of, he's always wanted to be more human, and in this, he has a chance to be more human by becoming more machine almost, and all that is so interesting. All her stuff with Picard, how Picard is just, he hates the Borg, but he is part Borg, and I think it's really, really cool. She was utilized really well in both Star Trek Next Generation and Voyager, but I think this is really, the height of her as just this kind of like, all right, we're going to assimilate. We're just going to take more and more cultures. You can't really fight the Borg. You like, they will just learn and adapt to you the best as you can. You got to kind of like go and try and root out the problem and like, stop them from advancing any further. And technology is like that. It is ever advancing. It is just keep going on and on and on. And somebody who is a honorable mention of mine, B.D. Wong, said in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, which is a bad movie, is you can't put it back in the box. No. Once the technology is out there, once the things have like taken over the world and taken root, that's it. You can't go back, and that's really what the Borg are all about.
Yeah, very well said. I very not aware, not knowledgeable at all of the Star Trek stuff. Never watched the show, haven't seen any of the movies. So, is this where to start? If the Next Generation is obviously where to start with that whole crew. But if you just watch,
Because I was honestly a lot more familiar with the movies than the shows growing up.
Yeah.
This is the only really great Next Generation movie.
Oh.
I would say start with Star Trek 2. If you can do, like, that one is probably the best, and then like that leads into Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 4, which is also a great time travel movie. First Contact and Voyage Home is what it's called, but everyone just calls Star Trek 4 the one with the whales. So those are really good. But this is a good one. This is a kind of a good stand on its own Star Trek movie is that you can check out if you want to watch Picard going out and Riker and all this stuff. So.
Yeah, very cool. Let's see. My number 3 is Jared Leto. Jared Leto as Neander Wallace in Blade Runner 2049.
You're a cop. I did your job once. I was good at it.
I know.
What do you want?
I want to ask you some questions.
So this is an interesting little performance he gives in this, right? Kind of weirdly perverted. Like he's got that. I think the first scene you see him in is where the android is coming out of the bag and she's all wet and goopy, and he kills her because she's not perfect, right? Is that what he does? I wasn't sure about what he's doing there.
Yeah. That was the one thing that never maybe it's just because I fucking hate Jared Leto. That was the one thing about this movie that I don't love is his performance. The character is very interesting. With his whole just like I can only make so many. I love Blade Runner 2049. I think it's a masterpiece.
Yes.
And yeah, he's very fucking creepy in this movie. Definitely fits the bill here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. This is probably actually one of the first things I've seen Mackenzie Davis in because it was 2016, 2017. Yeah, she was really great.
Well, she's also in another movie you're going to bring up for a second. Oh, no, I'm thinking of Dakota Johnson. Never mind. Mackenzie Davis. Yeah, she's great in this.
Yes. I see what you did there. Yeah, very creepy. I think he was playing blind, right? I'm wondering if that was a thing where he talked to the director about doing that because there's a story that I forget what the guy's name is. He's in everything. He's got that weird. He was Hellboy. What was his name?
Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman. Yeah, he tells a story about working with. Oh boy, my brain's getting fried. It's quite warm in here. Let's see. He was in. What's the guy from Godfather? He was Godfather and Godfather.
Marlon Brando.
Yeah, so Marlon Brando and the other guy that I just mentioned were in the Doctor.
Ron Perlman.
The Island of Dr.
Dr. Moreau.
The Island of Dr. Moreau, and Ron Perlman plays a blind guy And then halfway through the production, Marlon Brando realizes he's playing him blind.
I saw
crazy.
that. There was some documentary I was watching where they're talking about the making of that movie. He was like,
Yeah.
"Why is Ron looking at me?" And he's like, "Cause he's blind." What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh man, yeah. I wonder if Jared. That's what I was saying. I wonder if Jared Leto went up to Denis Villeneuve and was like, "Hey, what if I'm blind? What if I just do that?" And he's like, "Whatever, man. Just don't shit in a bag.
Yeah.
don't send used condoms, and don't talk to me. Don't talk. Yeah, stay away.
Don't make a movie called Morbius, please."
Yeah. So yes, Blade Runner 2049 is my number 3. What is your number 3?
Well, your number 3 actually leads completely perfectly into my number 3, because my number 3 is let me make sure I got his first name right, because it's a weird name, Eldon Terrell, who is of course the bad guy from the original Blade Runner, or I should say the tech evil genius in the original Blade Runner.
I need your deck. This is a bad one, the worst yet.
There was an escape from the off-world colonies 2 weeks ago. 6 replicants, 3 male, 3 female. They slaughtered 20...
A Blade Runner's job is to hunt down replicants. Manufactured humans you can't tell from the real thing.
What's this? Roy Batty. Probably the leader.
There was just one outfit making replicants that superhuman. The Tyrell Corporation.
He is the guy who made the replicants. He is the guy who is the kind of idol / person that Jared Leto's character is trying to emulate. He made the original Tyrell Corp. He has that pyramid that he lives in, and I love that. He's kind of seen as this like godlike figure throughout the whole movie. And you have Roy Batty, who is the villain, but kind of the character who goes on the biggest journey, and he confronts him at the end. And he's like, he finds out that he's like, because he thinks, oh, he'll give me more life. He can extend my robot lifespan, which is about to end. And he's like, yeah, sorry, bud, I can't do anything for you. I made you perfectly. And it's just kind of this, shows this facade that all these kind of tech bros have of like, yeah, they claim to be just like God and like lording over everyone, but they're just people. They can't even like extend their own lifespans of these guys or themselves. And he just crushes his eye with the glass. It's such a cool scene. So Tyrell definitely has to make my list.
Nice, very cool. I was just looking up the actor's name, Joe Turkel, and the picture they have on IMDb is, I guess he was the barman in The Shining. He played Lloyd in The Shining, so that makes sense there.
Holy shit! I never realized that. Fuck.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I looked at his face and I was like, oh yeah, it's that guy. Did you see Dr. Sleep, the sequel?
Yeah. Does it work as a solid horror movie? Yeah. Does it work as a sequel to that movie? Absolutely not. And I think that makes both movies worse. Like the third act of that movie is the weak point. I'm like, don't go back. Like if you could, it could have just been its own thing, and I think it would have been a lot better. But they had to. It was a tightrope because they're like, we have to make this sequel to this popular movie, but we have to get Stephen King's blessing, and he fucking hates that movie. So how do we? It just kind of robs everything that was cool and ambiguous about that first movie by being like, no, it was ghosts. It was definitively ghosts, and you're like, oh, okay. Like I like the movie, but obviously, oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting things. The guy who made it, the guy who made Midnight Mass.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan.
Midnight Mass. Flanagan, yeah, he's great, but I think that it should have kind of just been its own thing because it kind of ruins The Shining in retrospect.
Yeah, I hear you. So I brought that up because Henry Thomas, who's obviously the kid in E.T., grows up to be a really great actor himself. He plays the bartender, but the bartender he plays him as He plays him as Jack Torrance, Danny's father, and he does it actually pretty good job of doing like a Jack Nicholson impression.
He's a pretty good Jack Nicholson. I was like, okay, this isn't Jack Nicholson, but he's doing a pretty good job. I think I saw it with my mom, and she's like, is that supposed to be Jack Nicholson? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, pretty good. So that was your number 3. Let's see. So my number 2, coming in number 2, is Oscar Isaac as Nathan Bateman in 2014's Ex Machina.
It's a research facility.
And I want to talk to you about what I'm researching. You want to see something cool? You are dead center of the greatest scientific event in the history of man.
Hello.
Hi.
Ex Machina, which another one I haven't seen. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen this since it first came out. I'm pretty sure it does hold up pretty well. Have you seen this since it came out?
I have, not in a while though, but God, it's a good movie. Like, I really like. He's such a fucking. He's a likable person, but he fucking sucks. He's very Elon Musk.
He is very Elon Musk. Yes. I love the tearing up the dance floor scene there. Classic Oscar Isaac scene there. One of the first times I think one of the first times the world saw Alicia Vikander as Ava.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, is this the one that was in Devs? Sonia Mizuko. I believe that's her. Let's see. Yes. She would go on to be in Devs, which is another Alex Garland TV show that I would put on my list if it was a movie. Let me see. Yeah. Believe I don't have it in here, but yeah, the guy in Devs. Let me see, I just had it open here a second ago. Nick Offerman played the tech genius in Devs really, really well. Yeah, yep, highly recommend watching that. But yeah, Ex Machina, really great. Oscar Isaac, great as always. Domhnall Gleeson played a great role in that. What did you take from the ending there? That like why did she let Caleb die, do you think?
Because she had to get out. You know, the helicopter only knew there was one person that he was coming to get. I think she just kind of didn't care about Caleb. Like, you know, and she's like, okay, I need to get free. And she didn't have any malice against him, but she was like, all right, well, the way I get free is by tricking this guy who is kind of like, Caleb fucking sucks, but like you're supposed to like identify with him, but then it's just like, oh no, he's just kind of like the guy who's like, actually, I'm a nice guy. Like, that's Caleb's whole thing.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, like, he sucked, and, like, I felt bad for him, but I'm like, good, fucking stab Oscar Isaac. Like, he sucks even more.
Yeah, it's like the Democrats versus Republicans there. Caleb being the Democrats. Like, both kind of suck.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we care about women. It's just like, shut the fuck up, Democrats. You let this fucking happen.
You did. You really did.
God damn it.
Do we want to mention what we're referring to there?
I think anybody listening could probably figure it out. My God, it's too
I don't think. Yeah, we do actually see the dates on this. Yeah, I always forget we date this. Some people don't like to date it or reference anything going on the outside. Roe versus Wade was struck down this week by the Supreme Court. Very bad, obviously, super bad.
Yeah,
what would have been known was forecasted a long time ago. I forget what somebody mentioned specifically. Ruth Bader Ginsburg really should have retired when she could have. That would have, Trump would have still appointed two Supreme Court seats, but I would that have been majority? I'm not sure, but
it still would have been 5-4. I mean, it was 5-4 to overturn Roe, 6-3 to keep the decision. It's a whole. It was I don't know. I mean, the Ruth Bader Ginsburg thing, I'm like, because like, when would she have to retire? I was like trying to game this out in my mind. It would have to been like before 2012, because if she had retired after that, it would have been the same thing that like what happened when Scalia died and he tried to appoint Merrick Garland, which is like the Republicans just used their fucking supermajority to go against everything the Constitution has stood for and like not let him get elected for fucking a year so they could wait till Trump could. So then it would have just been that again. There would have just been two vacancies until they could get Trump into power. But I don't want to. I mean, this isn't 538 Politics podcast.
Yeah, just real quickly, just do away with the filibuster, pack the courts, and there's a third thing that they should do right away. That they could do. I forget what it was, but yeah, all that. Do all that. Blow it up.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Where was I? Number 2, Ex Machina. What is your number 2 egomaniacal tech geniuses?
So I'm starting to steal your thunder here, but this is going to be somebody who I know you're going to talk about on your list, but I have him in a different role. Okay. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
He has the power to wipe out the entire human race. If we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
The greatest gladiator match in the history of the world. God versus man. Day versus night.
You're psychotic.
Because he is basically playing the same part that he plays in a movie you'll talk about. I'll let you talk about that. But he is just kind of doing his weird, eccentric, and I don't think he's a great Lex Luthor. Like I think Michael Rosenbaum is like the perfect Lex Luthor. Honestly, obviously Gene Hackman did great, but he's doing a different character, Lex Luthor Jr., whatever we want to call him. He's just so weird and eccentric, and he doesn't really know how to talk to people. Like there'll be times where he like tries to make a joke or like interact with people, and he's never really got it. And you can see like that's thing of like these guys who are just very technology based. Is like, okay, well I have all this money, I'm going to kind of create the world around me. He's a self-made guy. Which is something that's different than the other Lex, or I think he talked about like how his father like beat him and stuff like that. And he's just like, I'm a little, and just he's so
how I got these
weird.
Scars? My father was a drinker. My brother was a drinker and a fiend.
Wait a minute, that's a different guy.
Sorry, go ahead.
But no, it's such an interesting counterpoint to these kind of these characters that are built up by Snyder to be these larger than life good guys, and he's just this kind of sniveling little guy. I fucking say what you will about that, but I do love Eisenberg's performance. He's just so weird with like the gummy bears and stuff, and how he like blows up his assistant. He doesn't care about anything, and he doesn't really get the world except through technology, and he definitely doesn't understand people. And he's so weird and unhinged. It's just taking that tech guy to what it would be if there were superheroes in the world, and I think that's really an interesting take on it.
Yeah, I think Heath Ledger performance cast a pall over the entire, like, not just superhero villains, but just villains overall. I think you definitely see people either trying to ape it or trying to go in a completely different direction, like Riddler in the Batman from this year. You can definitely see so much of Joker, so much of Heath Ledger in that performance, trying to be the weird guy in that performance there. Yeah, good pick. I have that on my honorable mentions list around down there. Yep. Nice. But let's get to the one we've been alluding to all night. Now, my number one, egomaniacal tech genius Jesse Eisenberg as Mark Zuckerberg in David Fincher's The Social Network.
To do something substantial in order to get the attention of the clubs.
Why?
Because they're exclusive and fun, and they lead to a better life.
People want to go on the internet and check out their friends, so why not build a website that offers that friends, pictures, profiles?
I'm talking about taking the entire social experience of college and putting it online.
Site got 2,200 hits within 2 hours.
22,000.
This idea is potentially worth millions of dollars.
Millions? You stole our website.
They're saying we stole the Facebook.
I know what it says.
So did we?
$1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool? $1 billion.
You're going to get left behind. It's moving faster than any of us ever imagined it would.
Let's sue him in federal court.
I can't wait to stand over your shoulder and watch you write as a check.
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
Is there anything that you need to tell me?
Your actions could have permanently destroyed everything I've been working on.
We have been working on.
Did you like being a joke? Do you want to go back to that? Mark!
This is our time.
You're being accused of intentionally breaching security, violating copyrights, violating individual privacy.
Your best friend is suing you for $600 million.
As for the charges, I believe I deserve some recognition from this board.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
I don't understand.
Which part?
Which I mentioned, I just watched again this week, and my God, just everything. That beginning is so fucking perfect. Just the scene where he's in the bar and it's got that back and forth, snappy Aaron Sorkin dialogue going back and forth. And the great line of like, when you get older, you're going to be rich and you're going to be famous, Mark. But I just want you to let you know that girls are not going to hate you because you're smart or you're a genius. Girls are going to hate you because you're a fucking asshole. Just a great line. I really hope somebody got a chance to say that to him in real life somewhere along the way. Somebody said that to him, actually. Just the shots are composed so well. The music by Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor is incredible. Watched behind the scenes making of the music. So interesting to me, like musicians that are at that level have access to these giant rooms, all of this technology, all of this stuff, and the score is basically just that just like three piano notes throughout, and just this drumming score behind it. And these guys probably spent thousands of hours trying to perfect that little thing in there, but really you can see the workmanship in there, in the dialogue and the shots and the music. Everything came together for an incredible movie. Just incredible.
No question about that.
Yeah. So is this one of your favorite Fincher movies? I don't know if we did a Fincher top 5, but was this on our number one top?
This is
Fincher?
I do like. This is one of my favorite Finchers. I love David Fincher. I mean, I don't know if it cracked my top 5 because he is so good. It's definitely one of my favorite Soderberghs. Soderberghs. Sorkins. Aaron Sorkins.
Sorkins. Yeah.
And I think it is such an interesting collaboration between them. I think that Fincher was the exact right person to kind of rein in Sorkin. Him and Bennett Miller, I think, are the two directors that have really been able to get a really good human performance out of these kind of very quippy screenplays that Sorkin writes that are very just kind of like dialogue heavy and just kind of walking and talking. And I think the combination of them was incredible. And Eisenberg has just this great performance where you're like, he's almost relatable, but he sucks so much. Like, I think you understand everything that he's doing, but you're just like, fuck you at the same time.
Yeah. So many great lines in that. So many great performances. The iconic, memeable Andrew Garfield scene where he's walking into the office, and I guess they filmed that 40 or 50 times. They had to do that that many times.
I believe it. Fincher always does that.
Yeah. So many takes. I'm not coming back for everything, asshole. Or not. I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything, asshole.
Yep.
You signed the papers. You set me up. You're gonna blame me because you were the business head of the company and you made a bad business deal with your own company?
It's gonna be like I'm not a part of Facebook.
It won't be like you're not a part of Facebook. You're not a part of Facebook.
My name's on the masthead.
You might want to check again.
It's because I froze the account?
You think we were gonna let you parade around in your ridiculous suits pretending you were running this company?
Sorry! My Prada's at the cleaners! Along with my hoodie and my fuck you flip-flops, you pretentious douchebag!
Security's here. You'll be leaving now?
I'm not signing those papers.
We will get the signature.
Tell me this isn't about me getting into the Phoenix. You did it. I knew you did it. You planted that story about the chicken.
I didn't plant the story about the chicken.
What's he talking
You
about?
had me accused of animal cruelty.
Seriously, what the hell's the chicken?
And I'll bet what you hated the most is that they identified me as a co-founder of Facebook, which I am. You better lawyer up, asshole, because I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything.
Get him out of here.
It's okay, I'm going. Hang on.
Almost forgot. Here's your $19,000. I wouldn't cash it, though. I drew it on the account you froze.
standing next to you, Sean. It makes me look so tough.
Oh man, just incredible. Andrew Garfield's so good in that. Let's see, there were some other people in that. I was like, holy shit, that person is in here. Oh, Rashida Jones was in that. She was one of the attorneys in there, and of course the ankle biter himself, Armie Hammer, playing the
double role.
Double hammers, yep. Double Winklevoss in there, yep. It's such a weird thing.
JT's in this.
JT, yeah, incredible. It's just weird from like a legal standpoint. I never really understood how they had legal standing or a legal foothold in there, because it was all, as I understand it, like they had emails going back and forth of being like, are you starting the project? Are you starting the Facebook? Are you starting the Harvard Facebook thing? And that was their whole basis for the entire the lawsuit that sort of bookends the movie. If people haven't seen this, the entire movie is basically about this beginning of Facebook, but also is bookended by this deposition that he's giving, that Zuckerberg is giving about the Winklevoss twins, brought a lawsuit basically saying that Zuckerberg promised them to build them a Harvard Facebook, but then he, on the side, he actually made it nationwide and worldwide now. But all that was like, hey, can you do this? And it was just like an email exchange back and forth. There was no contract signed saying that he would do it. And it was all verbal and sort of informal. So I really never understood why they even had a case against him. Do you?
No. I guess it's just like, he quote unquote stole their idea. I think it's one of those things that's just, there's so many legal decisions that I'm just like, this is just so dumb, There was obviously a trial that just bugged the shit out of me that wouldn't go away for the last couple weeks. But yeah, so it's one of those things. It's like I would probably need Saul Goodman to explain to me the intricacies of this one.
Yeah. All right, so that was my number one, Tech Geniuses. What is your number one, Tech Geniuses?
So I was, talking to when we first started shooting around the ideas for this, about how much I love Justin Hammer and Sam Rockwell's performance in that, and he's just this weird tech guy. But the more I started thinking about it, the more I was like, you know what? He is just kind of a pale imitation of the real tech genius mastermind, egomaniacal mastermind, which is Tony Stark himself. And that's why I gotta have as my number one egomaniacal tech genius is Tony Stark.
Nothing else. Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you?
Stark. You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me. You're not the only one cursed with knowledge.
My only curse is you. You could have saved us. I just finally know what I have to do. And I know in my heart that it's right. Because if we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn well sure we'll avenge it. Start with something pure. Something exciting. Then come the mistakes. The compromises.
Stark, you know that's a one-way trip.
You're not gonna make the sacrifice play. To lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
True.
He is all of the things we're talking about. He is this kind of Randian, kind of like Elon Musk. Like Elon Musk even gets a fucking cameo in Iron Man 2, where he's like, "Hey, buddy, we're just like," and it's just like it's all about like, I've created this thing. This is my invention. I'm a genius, and I'm giving it to the world, and I'm protecting the world. And you see his arc. He just starts out as this kind of like rich playboy genius who's like, he has that line where Chris Hemsworth, who is just, or Captain America is just, he's like trying to dress him down. He's like, ooh, like big man in a suit, take that away. What are you? And he's like, billionaire, philanthropist, genius, whatever. Like he's just so, he's like, I am all these things. I am so great. And I think you see his arc, him becoming like, he starts to realize what matters, and it's not all of these things, and he's not defined by that. I think, I have my issues with Iron Man 3, but I think that is something that works really well is what is he when you take away the suit and you take away all these creations, you know? I think that really comes to a head when he is the literal villain in Captain America Civil War, and he is trying to reckon with all of the things that that exist because his whole arc, the whole fucking, like, whatever, however many movies he appears in, 10, 12 movies, is all because he is trying to reckon with the weapons that he created. And then he kind of goes out and creates more weapons, and then he creates Ultron, and it just keeps building on itself. The more he tries to fix it, he's like, well, I can fix it by doing this, and he keeps making the same mistake. Yeah. And when he is like, all right, well, we've got to be the one, and then he's the bad guy in Civil War, you see Captain America trying to take him down, trying to take down this tech bro down, who ultimately doesn't really understand at that point, you know, like he's like so many tech boys, he's tried to conceal all his emotions and build up this persona, but he's just a sad little boy who misses his mom. Like, that's what it fucking comes down to. Like, so many of these douchebags, you know, like, and I think that's brilliant. I'm not a huge Iron Man fan. I think he has a really interesting arc over the course of the films. But go back and watch Iron Man 2 and tell me that he doesn't fucking suck and that movie has not aged well. And that's why it's got to be Iron Man himself, Tony Stark, for me, for number one.
Very good pick. Very well said. I can hear Dion's head exploding as we speak. his ear is just like buzzing with electricity. He's like, I hear somebody disparaging the great Tony Stark. He built it in a cave with a box of scraps. Goddamn mom killer. He always says mom killer. He never says mom and dad killer. He never says parent killer. Like, he killed both their parents. Not just one of them.
Yeah, but he's got mommy issues.
Sure. Well, yeah, daddy
Nobody
issues
cares
too.
about John Slattery, unfortunately.
No, but I mean, to be fair, they did put him in Endgame, so they sort of they try to tie up that whole thing. But yeah, very good pick. Yes, that guy. He is the guy. Tony Stark is the guy that Elon Musk wanted to be. I'm sure at that point Elon was just like knocking on the door and be like, "Can I be in your movie, guys? Because he's the guy I want to be. And if I just go on there and I could be near him and I could absorb some of that charisma, maybe I can be that guy as well." Shut the fuck up, Elon.
Yeah.
Great pick, yeah. There is a gap in the MCU that they're definitely missing. I think that's part of why myself and a lot of people are sort of down on Phase 4 so much, because we don't have that massive ego of Tony Stark and that massive charisma of Robert Downey Jr. to fill that hole, right?
I mean, you have Doctor Strange, who's basically the same character, but with magic instead of tech, which is probably why the reason I'm not a huge Doctor Strange fan. He's just kind of a worse version of Iron Man. So I think he might step into that role, to be honest.
Yes. So very quickly, let me go through some of my honorable mentions. From a couple years ago, Oliver Jackson Cohen as Adrian Griffin in The Invisible Man from 2020 was my number 6, very close to cracking the top 5 there. Number 7 was Dodson. We got Dodson here from Jurassic Park. Dodson from Dominion.
Still nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Number 8, Superman 3. I put this in here because I went back and listened to How Did This Get Made of Superman 3 that they talked to, that's a hilarious one on their show. Robert Vaughn as Ross Webster. Insane movie. If people haven't seen this movie, I definitely recommend watching this just for how bad it is. It's incredible, the things that happen in this movie. Number 9, There Will Be Blood. Daniel Day-Lewis, I sucked your milkshake. I sucked it all up. Because, I mean, that's tech. That was
that's
tech
an
back
interesting
then.
one. That's an interesting one. I didn't think about that. But that's a good point.
Tech now is computers, but back in the day it was, oil lines, oil fields, stuff like that. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. We have Jason Schwartzman as Gideon Gordon Graves. Remember that one from back then?
Yep.
You had Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor that you brought up. And finally, from The Incredibles, Jason Lee as Syndrome. Not so much a tech genius, but definitely egomaniacal there. Egomaniacal genius there. Yep. So that is our top 5 egomaniacal tech geniuses this week. I do have a couple more things if you want to.
Well, can I go through my honorable mentions real fast?
Yes, that thing. You can do that. Yep.
Because I did already mention, Justin Hammer and was going to be on mine, I think, and then Henry Wong from Jurassic Park, and then I also had Dodson. On mine from Dominion. keeping with the Iron Man theme, Aldrich Killian, who is basically an updated version of Edward Nygma, who's also on my list. You've got Peter Ishwell from Don't Look Up. You've got Nathan Bateman, who you mentioned, who is Oscar Isaac's character in Ex Machina. Vander Wallace I also had it as an honorable mention, along with Gideon Graves, and then two more that that were not on any of your list, which is Lamar Burgess from Minority Report, as played by oh my gosh, iconic actor. Why am I forgetting his name? You can't run, John. Oh my gosh, he was in Sound of Music. Why the fuck am I forgetting his name? And oh my god, it's gonna bug me. And then Owen Davian, as played by Philip Seymour Hoffman in Mission Impossible 3. I think his performance is so good, and he's just kind of just an evil, scheming, running an evil tech empire kind of guy.
Very nice. I'm trying to look up the Sound of Music, but the play first came up. Let's see, Sound of Music movie cast. Oh yeah, Christopher Plummer.
Yes, Plummer. Oh my god, how did I forget Plummer? He's iconic. Iconic.
Yes. Very cool. All right, so that was our top 5 egomaniacal tech geniuses. Real quick, just want to mention a couple things else I saw this week. The documentary Navalny. I'm trying to load up on documentaries because I haven't seen very much of them this year. This is about Alexander Navalny, who is currently in jail, basically for being the opponent against Putin. You can't do that.
I need to see that.
Yeah, it's really good. I believe it is streaming free on Amazon Prime there. So yeah, you want to watch it, so I won't say too much. But this is the problem we're having now with Democratic leaders, with people trying to face down fascism. And he does things in this movie that I would expect Democratic leaders in this country to do as well, of being like, look at all this stuff. It's like the Panama Papers that came out, and I think the people that did that were like, once everybody has all the facts, all of this corruption in front of them, they'll just riot. There'll be riots in the streets, and guillotines will be coming out. All the information will be out there, and it will, it'll help in some way, and it just doesn't. It never does. You can release all the information you want. Watching this movie reminded me of this character named Holden from the Expanse books. He does a very similar thing where this Martian freighter is attacked by the asteroid, by the Belters, to try to spark a war between the Earthlings and the Martians. And it's this whole thing, but basically Holden finds information that leads back to the Belters, and he releases it, and nobody cares. And Navalny, not to spoil anything in this movie, but Navalny does a very similar thing in this, where he's just like, hey everybody, corruption, it's a thing happening, look over here. And yeah, it doesn't go well. Yeah. But that was a very, very well done documentary from this year. I also checked out Watcher, another Sundance darling from this year that finally released this week on Amazon Prime. So check that out. It stars Micah Monroe and Carl Glusman. They had a very funny review by David Chen. He put a very funny review on Letterboxd this week. He said, quote, if I had a nickel for every time Micah Monroe starred in an indie horror film where she plays a character that gets followed around by sketchy-ass people that may mean her harm, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Which is very funny.
You know what that's from, right?
Yes. Is that a Simpsons quote?
It's from Phineas and Ferb. Dr. Doofenshmirtz says it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I know I heard that somewhere before. Yeah, that's very funny.
Yeah.
He's referencing...
I have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
He's referencing the fact that Micah Monroe was in the movie It Follows from 2014, I believe, 2015.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that happened in that too as well. So yeah, that was very good. Definitely worth watching. Let's see. I believe that was it. So checked out. I watched a bunch of David Cronenberg movies this year to prepare for Crimes of the Future, which I just checked out right before we hopped on the mics here today. This is a weird fucking movie. Could not describe it even if I had all day, which I don't. But if you're into Cronenberg, if you're into body horror, if you're into Léa Seydoux, which I am, if you're into Viggo Mortensen, highly recommend watching this movie. I believe it's on Vudu, currently streaming there right now. So that is all the stuff.
Already on Vudu? Like, it's now in theaters. It's like a month, like 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's on Vudu. It's this $20 thing, premium VOD that you have to pay $20 to rent. So unfortunately, that's that price. But definitely worth it. I recommend watching that. Let's do pluggers. I remembered to do the plugs this week.
Hey, you got it.
I got it. I put it at the top and the bottom of the document.
And highlighted. And
it worked. Finally worked. Yeah, got it.
I don't have to awkwardly be like, well, Damian, hold on, wait, let me talk about myself.
Hold up. So I haven't done much Medium blog updating, but we'll hopefully get back to that soon enough. But yeah, check that out if you want to still read my older stuff. I am very active, like I said, on Letterboxd. I pretty much write at least a few lines, if not a bunch of lines, bunch of paragraphs to the stuff I watch every week. So go to, I think I mangled it last week. So basically what it is it's B_FOR_Benedetta on Letterboxd there. That's where I do all that stuff. Go to the Film Essayist on YouTube if you want to check out my film essays on YouTube, and go to anchor.com to easily make a podcast. Derek, give me your plugs, please.
Yeah, so, as I kind of alluded to, I also do a podcast called Underrated with a couple of my friends. We call ourselves the Undercast Company, where, as you might guess, we talk about underrated movies. Like Damian mentioned, we got to talk about The Frighteners with Phil Isco from Podcasts Like It's 1999, who was an incredible guest, super knowledgeable. Had a ton of fun talking with him on our last episode. The episode that's going to be coming out when this episode drops is we're going to be talking about Silence, Martin Scorsese's 2016
very nice,
depressing ass amazing religious film, which is fucking phenomenal. It lost a shit ton of money at the box office, but it was so goddamn good. So we talk about that, and it's interesting because I'm kind of agnostic, and my co-host Ariel is Catholic, and Alan is, he's also kind of agnostic, so we have definitely different viewpoints on it, and where we come at it from and how we digest it. So I think that was a really, really good episode both these last two episodes we've done have been phenomenal. But yeah, you can listen to Underrated on however you're listening to this, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We also upload them all to YouTube. That's my main plug. Everywhere else I'm on Medium, Letterboxd, just look up Derek McDuff. But definitely give Underrated a listen, or check out Undercast Company on Instagram.
Yeah. Definitely check all that stuff out. So, for episode 141 of the Can I Say Something podcast, I have been Damian.
And I've been Derek.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.